I'm going to start. I'm here to talk to you about the Dao Fund, a project that I've been working on, and talk a little bit about my experience in the Dao space. So my journey started around January of this year with the Genesis DAO ecosystem. And since then, I've kind of jumped around various DAOs and been involved in various different projects, including DXDAO, the Aragon Community Fund DAO, recently the Metacartel DAO, as well as the General Store DAO, which is a physical DAO tied to a legal entity. So I've been jumping around and exploring all the different DAO spaces, which has been really fun. And one of the questions I kept coming back to is, how are we going to actually kickstart the DAO ecosystem? We have a lot of hopes and dreams that this is going to grow up to be this massive thing, but we really face some big challenges in terms of kickstarting the ecosystem. And one of the things I kept coming back to is that we need people to be able to invest in DAOs to really fuel the space in a sustainable way. And so to me, I've been thinking a lot about how do we make DAOs investable, and how do we allow funds to flow into the DAO space effectively. And this has ultimately brought me to the concept called DAOfund, which is really a DAO created to fund experiments within the DAO space that are revenue generating and that investors can participate in and hopefully monetize some aspect of the DAO. So how is the DAO actually structured? We have this perfect hierarchy. No, I'm just joking. So this is a hierarchy from IBM that's ancient. And DAOs are very different from that. DAOfund specifically, what we start out as is just a DAO that people can contribute to, and then we have projects that the DAO can deploy and contribute to and decide together. Alternatively, the contributor DAO can also deploy funds to managers that might have different projects within them and might provide services like advising or giving information on the performance of the assets that they're invested in. So it's a very flexible nature. In addition, to start with at this stage, the DAO is live, and the DAO acts as a market maker. So if you want to participate in the DAO or exit your position from the DAO itself, it has to go through the proposal process, and it's done that way just for simplicity's sake at this stage. And the structure itself, you can kind of squint and see that it might turn into a fractal structure. That's the idea, is that this initial conception of a DAO and a sub-DAO would eventually grow into different sub-DAOs, into this type of structure, and that maybe the initial people involved in the project, including myself, we might be one of those small little fractals in the end. And this DAO fund itself is open to anyone, and anyone can participate in and really capture what this is all about. So right now our operating principles is just to learn through experiments and really push the boundaries for what a DAO can do in terms of deploying capital and getting returns in some way. And at this stage, none of our processes are automated. Everything is just through social consensus through the DAO. And we will automate over time, but we want to be really careful in what aspects of the DAO we automate, just because there's a lot more flexibility gained with this type of structure. So some of the early proposals that have passed since we've been live has been agreeing on the early contributor rewards, so people who are early in the DAO fund and who contribute. Agreeing on some mechanisms to prevent 51% attacks within the DAO, and also the implementation of an exit fee within the DAO. So just really, really basic things that we need and that we agree on. And the nice thing is that any one of these parameters and these rules can be changed at any time through another proposal. So if we come up to some friction and we decide, hey, let's change this, we can all just agree and change it, and it's pretty flexible that way. So then the question as well, which some other people have asked is, okay, well, you want to create fundable DAOs, why not just create a DAO? The real area where we hope to focus on is really to have mind share around fundable DAOs and around the idea of investable DAOs. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of unanswered questions that need to be asked, and the more we collect around this concept and the more mind share we have, the better we have at really solving these questions and creating a DAO that is actually investable. Similar to kind of what Metacartel did, I was there just yesterday, and it's really nice to see all these people surrounding around meta transactions and the challenges there. We face similar problems and unanswered questions in the fundable DAO space, which I think is quite exciting. So some of these unanswered questions include how do DAOs actually capture value, and how do they distribute that value back to the DAO members? What are the most promising use cases for these experiments? What are the legal implications? Obviously, there's many unanswered questions there. How do we align incentives between the members and investors, which have very different incentives sometimes? So these are like really basic questions that nobody knows the answers to, and we think that by bringing people together around these topics, we have the greatest chance to answer them. Another one that, for me personally, is really important is how do we ensure we don't destroy the planet while unlocking these investable DAOs. Really, right now we think we have a free market, but what happens when that free market is actually a free market, where talent can move around, where money can move around? That could unlock a whole different can of worms that we're not even prepared to do. You could start with a DAO with owning a simple coffee machine, and that could grow into Terminator or some crazy idea like that, or maybe a little community shop selling goods, and that grows into some massive empire that's polluting the planet. So we really don't want that to happen. And so we need to work together on solving these important issues. So that's DAOfund. So if anybody's interested in participating, collaborating, mind sharing, or anything else, just let me know. We'd be excited to work together. Thank you.
We have time for one question. Does anybody have like a question they want to ask about DAOfund? Nope. Cool. Moving forward. Thanks, Eric. That was awesome.